Welcome, it's denome. In this video, we're going to talk about the FUD that is happening, which is destroying the crypto markets right now, or hitting the crypto markets. And if you just take a look at Bitcoin, you can see that it actually dropped here about 10% already. So that's a massive drop recently, because we haven't seen a minus 10% day for a long period of time with Bitcoin. But if you just take a look at Bitcoin as a whole, that's nothing too big in my opinion. But anyway, we're down about 10% right now, or about 8% where we are sitting right now. But just looking at the charts, you can see that the prices were going upwards here, while the RSI was actually getting lower. So that it's called a bearish divergence. And the same thing basically happened 3 times already. So here, prices were going up, but the RSI was going lower, and the prices were going up here, while the RSI was going lower as well. So the third time this happened, we just hit this resistance line. So that's why I do think that the trend is now about to reverse, because we also made a lower high here, or I mean a lower low as well. So to me, I do think that we're actually headed to $13,000, or we can also bounce from this trend line here, which would bring us to 16,000. So personally, I'm not buying Bitcoin yet. I'm waiting for it to go to like 16,000, or that's my first buy zone, and my second buy zone is here about 13 to 14,000. So we'll see how low Bitcoin actually goes, but those are my buy zones. We'll see how that works. But for now, I'm just sitting mostly on stable coins. So I have about 25% stable coins in my portfolio, and the rest is just different altcoins in the market. But that's my position right now. So I'm just waiting for opportunities, and most of my investments are already in cryptos that are pretty undervalued. So I have sold a lot of my Cell token, as well as some of my ETH I have sold on this rally as well. But anyway, let's talk about the FUD now. So the FUD, what is it about? What's happening? So this was the best place that I saw about the FUD, but this is actually posted November 18th. So this is not anything new, but only now Brian Armstrong, who is the CEO of Coinbase, actually made this tweet, and this tweet went pretty viral, and this is what caused all the FUD pretty much. So last week we heard rumors that US Treasury and Secretary Mnuchin were planning to rush out some new regulation regarding self-hosted crypto wallets before the end of his term, so basically before the end of this year. I'm concerned that this would have unintended side effects, and wanted to share those concerns. So let's first just take a look at what this is about. He's not really referencing this post right here, but this is the best place I actually found like pretty good analysis on it, and it's made by Jai Ramaswamy. And who is he? Jai Ramaswamy is the head of risk, compliance, and regulatory policy at C Labs, working on Celo, and was previously the chief of asset forfeiture and money laundering section of the Department of Justice Criminal Division. So he knows his shit. And he was also the global head of anti-money laundering compliance at Bank of America, Merrill Lynch. So he really knows what he's actually talking about here. And now working with crypto, this is probably the best guy to actually talk about this one. So I have highlighted a lot of things here in the post, so let's just go through those. And first, what are the concerns with the government here is that the risks of illicit financial activities such as money laundering, terrorist financing, and the evasion of international sanctions arising from the use of unhosted wallets. So unhosted wallets, what are those? Those are basically non-custodial wallets. So if you're using Metamask, if you're using Ledger, if you're using Atomic Wallet, or any kind of wallet that you actually hold the custody of your funds, are called unhosted wallets in this scenario. It's a weird name, but that's what they call it here. A recent study published by the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, is the one that is referenced here. And the document that is referenced is actually already published in July 2020. And you can read this if you want to. I personally did not review it. It's quite a large file, but you can read it on your own if you want to. But anyway, he pretty much dissects it here in this article anyway. So let's just go over what he is talking about here. So the proposed measures for consideration included transaction limits on unhosted wallets, restricting the ability of regulated financial institutions to transact with them, and licensing or even prohibiting the platforms that support them. So basically, pretty much, if you are in the United States, they want to ban non-custodial wallets. So that's what the Financial Task Force is talking about here. Anyway, let's go forward. He then starts to talk about what it actually means. So the regulatory priorities shifted in response to Libra and the rise of DeFi. And for FATF report, and now he puts the link here, is what he's referencing in this article. Anyway, the publication of the Libra white paper changed the perception of the industry overnight, raising the possibility that a global technology company with massive installed user bases could drive adoption of crypto assets to a level that could rival the current financial status of financial system. So that's what got people worried. And the policymakers fear that the full maturity of these decentralized protocols could foreshadow a future without financial intermediaries. So basically taking the power from the banks, which would significantly inhibit law enforcement's ability to identify, prosecute, and otherwise disrupt illicit financial networks in an environment when the effectiveness of these tools is already being challenged. All right. Next, DEX and DeFi protocols begin to displace financial intermediaries. These developments are unlikely to affect fiat on and off ramps. All right. Next one. It's really long, so I'll give my assessment at the end. Restricting personal cryptocurrency transactions is impractical and ineffective. Now, this is his own opinion already. Restricting the transactions is ineffective in his opinion. It would prohibit the development of blockchain protocols themselves, so it would make US less effective in the global market and less competitive if this regulation actually hits. That's basically what he says here. At least in the United States, restrictions on the dissemination of open source software face constitutional and policy barrier. So he's talking that it probably even could not be passed because all crypto is mostly open source anyway. And regardless, likely to require a degree of repression that raises foundational questions in any open and democratic society if this actually comes into effect. More importantly, the practical experience of countries that have attempted to impose either formal or informal restrictions on crypto assets demonstrated their ineffectiveness. So there are countries like Lebanon, China, South Korea tried to actually restrict this already, but even South Korea has basically gone 180 on it, and now they have embraced the crypto space already. So that's what happened. The open source protocols are by their nature developed by a community of developers across the globe. So you cannot really limit that development if you just limit like, okay, you cannot do this anymore. But all these open source protocols are already across the globe. So it's really, really hard to actually start to regulate those. Licensing restrictions would have no impact on the development of this technology and would merely push it to countries with similar requirements. Again, just emphasizing that it would just make US less effective in this new Web 3.0 development. Policymakers globally have also considered more targeted approaches, for example, requiring VASPs, I have no idea what those are, to verify the identity of unhosted wallets. So this is the third thing, and this is actually what Brian is mostly talking about in his tweets as well. So what it means is that if you are running your own wallet, or if you have your own wallet, you have to somehow identify it in some database that you actually own this wallet. So that's what they want. But they also propose, instead of only using KYC, which is know your customer, also to know the counterparty. So unlike KYC requirements, which arise from direct customer relationship, KYCC, the counterparty also requirement, unreasonably obligate non-customers to provide personally identifying information to a VASP they do not know or do business with. So basically you have to leak other people's data if you want to transact with them to the authorities as well. So that would, of course, be a huge privacy issue as well. Illicit actors would simply employ so-called money mules or use stolen or synthetic identities to defeat the requirement. So it would probably not even block anything. The result would be further exclude financially marginalized populations and hinder innovation which could serve their needs without meaningfully affecting illicit financial activity. So he's talking about both sides here. And cryptocurrency is the solution, not the problem, is the next one. So the most effective way of minimizing the misuse of blockchain technology to conduct illicit financial activities is to embrace industry trends that are driving the decentralized protocols rather than attempting to inhibit or restrict their development and use. So what it means here is that law enforcement investigations would be better served by directly obtaining raw transaction data. However, these solutions have been rightly constrained by legal and prudential concerns and their privacy implications until the emergence of decentralized blockchain protocols, which natively allow law enforcement to conduct investigations unconstrained by the barrier posed by financial intermediation. This allows law enforcement to triangulate transaction data with investigative information and intelligence sources to be more effectively identify, disrupt, and dismantle illicit financial networks. So what it means is that it would just be better for blockchain analytics companies to use the economics of scale, because they don't have to get these pieces of information here and there. They can just take a look at the blockchain and look at all the transactions that are happening there. So it would be better for these companies to actually find these the illicit financial what were the networks, illicit financial networks. Anyway, that's his assessment here, that whatever is proposed in this one is not A, effective, and B, has huge unintended consequences. And Brian here is talking about the same thing, but he's emphasizing different things here. So I'm gonna just read this as well, so bear with me if you don't like how I'm speaking, but I think this is important. So for those who don't know, self-hosted crypto wallets, also known as non-custodial wallets or self-custody wallets, are a type of stock. Okay, we all know that self are important because they allow anyone to, okay, that's important. The open source, okay. The proposed regulation would, we think, require financial institutions like Coinbase to verify the recipient owner of the self-hosted wallet, collecting identifying information on that party before a withdrawal could be sent to that self-hosted wallet. This sounds like a reasonable idea on the surface, but it's a bad idea in practice because it is often impractical to collect identifying information on a recipient in the crypto economy. Let me explain why. Many crypto users are sending crypto to smart contracts to use DeFi apps. A smart contract is not necessarily owned by any individual or business who could be identified. It is a new type of recipient that doesn't have direct equivalent in traditional financial services. Many crypto users are sending crypto to various merchants online, paying for goods and services. Does it make sense to require customers to help verify the identity of a business before they can actually buy a product there? Many crypto users are also sending crypto to people in emerging markets where it is difficult or impossible to collect meaningful know your customer information anyway. Some of these individuals are living in poverty and may not have any permanent address or form of government ID. For example, this guy here. Many crypto users are using their crypto with new types of applications online. Imagine if every time you wanted to upload some content on Reddit or transfer an item in a game, you were hit with a form asking you to verify a recipient. So it would be pretty awful. Finally, many recipients in the US or abroad who value their financial privacy may simply not want to upload more identifying documents to various companies which could be hacked or stolen. This additional friction would kill many of the emergent use cases of crypto. Crypto is not just money, it is digitizing every type of asset. Given these barriers, we are likely to see fewer transactions from crypto to financial institutions to self-hosted wallets. This would effectively create a walled garden for crypto financial services in the US, cutting us off from the innovation happening in the rest of the world. This would be bad for America. It would force US consumers to use foreign unregulated crypto companies to get access to these services. And long term, I believe this would put America's status as the financial hub at risk. Just like the US benefited enormously by embracing the open internet, it should embrace the open crypto networks and allow US citizens to move their own money freely in the emerging crypto economy. If this crypto regulation comes out, it would be a terrible legacy and have long-standing negative impacts for the US in the early days of the internet, where people who called it to be regulated, like the phone companies. Thank goodness they didn't. We sent a letter last week, and he just made this tweet here, and people here are responding to that one. Sounds like you are afraid to lose some of the centralization and control over banks. Okay. I thought you weren't into politics. Is this good for security, privacy token? Yes. Actually, no. Yes. Is Raul Paul. He's actually also answering this one. If you think that secrecy from governance and no KYC is Bitcoin's future, then you don't understand what adoption looks like. They will regulate it. You will declare it. You will have to do KYC, and that is fine. It doesn't take away its store of value, but just integrates it. That's Raul Paul saying that, and he has a good point here. Tough ain't gonna happen. If you want roads, then you have to pay for taxes. So that's a good point that he makes here. But I think many people who actually own Bitcoin want it to be censorship resistant. So I don't know if I actually agree with Raul Paul, but it seems like he's supporting this new regulation here because he posted this today and he's responding to that one as well. And one more thing I have here is, according to my understanding, the FATF discussion, this is the exact objective of the future regulations. So let's take a look at this picture and read that one also. So this is taken from that document that I showed earlier. This includes banning or denying licensing or platforms if they allow unhosted wallet transfers, introducing transactional or volume limits on peer-to-peer transactions, or mandating that transactions occur with the use of a VASP or financial institution. So that is basically the FUD that is happening. So maybe you understand everything that I tried to say here. You can read through this. It's pretty long, and there's some interesting things here, but I just tried to highlight what is actually the core of what this is about. But anyway, if that regulation comes into effect, of course, basically US citizens couldn't use DeFi at all, because you always have to keep identifying who you are transacting with, as well as it would be super hard to get your money out of any exchange, because then you would have to do some kind of verification process that you actually own this wallet, and then there could be some, I don't know. But that's only in the US for now. So we'll see if any other countries does talk about this one. And of course, what you have to also understand is that this is, again, just a rumor. So we don't know if this is going to be taking place. This document is real, but will Steve Mnuchin actually implement it? I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of downsides if they actually go and pass it for United States citizens. But again, if they do pass it, that will be bearish for Bitcoin for sure, and bearish for crypto, because again, it would just be another barrier for US citizens. But in the long run, if that also passes, I do agree with Raul Paul that if you actually want to have funds and pension funds and other kinds of funds out there, if you want them to actually buy Bitcoin and to have crypto there, it has to be regulated. So that is also for the adoption sake, that these institutions can actually buy this coin. So it's good, it's bad. Short term, it's really, really bad, super bad. Even long term, it's super bad. But some kind of regulation will probably come into Bitcoin. And I think in a recent video, I talked about Visa, that they want to be the #1 player. I think this is exactly the kind of thing that Visa would drive towards. And again, PayPal probably already knew about this, because PayPal is pushing for crypto as well. And now I think this is just accelerating, that all these like old financial services are now getting into crypto, and they are allowing you to actually hold crypto in there. So I think they want to keep control. They want to keep their power. So I think they are actually the ones who are pushing this forward, all these old institutions. Anyway, that's the situation there. Bad for DeFi. That's why most coins are also dropping. But we'll see if it actually takes place. And I'm sorry if you're in the United States. It's another one of your freedoms is basically they want to take it away. So that's basically it for the FUD. For me, again, with the FUD considered, it's just like the perfect timing, you know. When Bitcoin hits this resistance, I'm like, okay, let's start to take some profits off, and immediately after you hear the FUD. So that's what's happening. It's just like, okay, we hit the target, now it's time for FUD. Anyway, it's just funny how these things play out. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you want more updates, consider subscribing to the channel and leave a like or a comment down below as well. It helps the channel grow as well. Anyway, that's it for this video. Hope you liked it, and I will see you in the next video.